Friends, when I walk around my neighborhood, perhaps you, like I, see signs in people's yards that says, "We are in this together." I can only say, I wish that were true. I wish we were in all of this together. But as I see it, our country has never been more divided than it is now. We're divided politically, racially, and economically. Many, if not most of us, have seen videos posted online in past weeks of the senseless killings of unarmed Black Americans. The videos are painful to watch. It's devastating to watch them. You know about whom I speak. I'm talking about Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia and George Terry in Minnesota. Then a week and a half ago, a video was posted online of a Black man, Mr. Christian Cooper, who is in Central Park in New York City, watching birds, accosted by a woman named Karen Cooper, who refused to put her dog on a leash, even though the area is designated dogs must be on a leash, at the request of Mr. Cooper. And because a Black man asked her to put her dog on a leash, she said that she was going to call the police and report him for threatening her and her dog. Fortunately, all of this was caught on video by Mr. Cooper. No arrests were made. Praise be to God. No harm came to Mr. Cooper, and Miss Cooper was in no way damaged, nor was she threatened by Mr. Cooper. All of these things are desperately disturbing to me. I'm sure they are to many of you also. These events show, in my opinion, just how divided we are as a nation. I believe the story of Moses that Reverend Conklin read just a few moments ago has something to say to us during the difficult times in which we live. The point of this will not be immediately obvious, so I ask that you would bear with me as I narrate again the story of Moses on the top of Mount Sinai and his encounter with God. In chapter 34 of the book of Exodus, we see where Moses goes for the first time to meet with God to receive the 10 Commandments. He is given 2 tablets of stone. On both sides are written the 10 Commandments. Moses carries both of the stones down the mountain. To his surprise, no one is there to greet him. His brother Aaron is not there. Not a single Israelite is there. Granted, he did not tell them how long he would be gone because he didn't know how long he would be gone, but he thought that someone would be watching and waiting for him to return. When he got to the foot of Mount Sinai, no one was there, but he did hear noises in a distance, singing, laughing, shouts of joy. He followed those voices, and he saw his brother and the Israelites having the time of their life. They're having a party. They have made a golden calf, and they are worshiping it. They are dancing around the calf, singing, laughing. They are having a wonderful time. And when Moses sees that they are worshiping a golden calf, he flies into a rage. And in his anger, he takes the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments, holds them over his head, and throws them onto a nearby pile of rocks, and they break into 1,000 pieces. He is beyond furious with the Israelites. In case you may wonder where the Israelites got gold for a golden calf, let me tell you that to my knowledge there is no gold in the Sinai Peninsula. What happened was that the Israelites, when they left Egypt, brought with them the possessions that they could grab immediately and run, and much of what they took was jewelry. So this gold jewelry was used to fashion a golden calf, and Moses, in his fury, takes the calf, throws it in fire, and he and the Israelites watch it melt right before their very eyes. The second time Moses goes to Mount Sinai, he goes and pleads for the forgiveness of the Israelites for worshiping a golden calf. God listens to Moses. This time he says to Moses, "You hewn 2 pieces of stone tablet for me," which Moses does, and God again writes the 10 Commandments on both sides of the tablets. Again, Moses walks down the mountain. This time, his brother Aaron and the Israelites are waiting for him. He is holding the 2 stone tablets. But I would think, to Moses' surprise, the Israelites, when they saw him, took a step back. They were afraid of Moses. Now, Moses doesn't know why they are afraid of him. Perhaps he's thinking, well, I threw these stone tablets the last time because I was angry with them. Are they afraid I'm going to do it again? I don't know what Moses was thinking, but it was clear to him and to everyone else that the Israelites had taken a step back out of fear. Nevertheless, Moses read the 10 Commandments to the people of Israel, and it's only after he reads the 10 Commandments that his brother Aaron and other Israelites come to him, and they tell him that they are afraid of him because his face is radiant. Moses is glowing because he's been in the presence of God, and because his face is so bright, they cannot look at him. They're afraid to look at him. And so Moses puts a veil over his face to protect the Israelites from the brightness of his face so that they will be able to look at him. This is a shield so that they will be able to look at Moses, their leader. What this passage tells me, dearly beloved, is that the glory of God changes a person. What we see here is how the glory of God changes a person. Moses has spent time with God, and because he spent time with God, he reflects the glory of God in his appearance. It's not unlike contact with radioactive material. Mere contact affects a person, and you know it right away. So it is with God. When we are in the presence of God, we reflect the glory of God. The Apostle Paul tells us this in 2 Corinthians chapter 3. He says that Christians, like Moses, reflect the glory of the Lord because Jesus loved us, because Jesus died for us, because Jesus rose from the dead for us. We Christians reflect the glory of the Lord. That is what the Apostle Paul says to all of us who are Christians. We, like Moses, reflect the glory of the Lord. Down through the centuries, Christian artists have tried to communicate this truth by means of halos suspended over the heads of believers. And at this time, there'll be a slide on your screen, and you will see 4 pictures of persons with halos. The first are baby Jesus and baby John the Baptist that have halos over their heads that look like rings. And you'll notice the halos are slightly toward the back of their heads. In the second picture, you see where Jesus is being baptized by John the Baptist, and the halo looks like a very thin plate that goes over both of their heads. In the third painting, you see Jesus, the face of Jesus with a glow all around him. And finally, in the fourth picture that I could not resist, you see the drawing of a young male child with a halo askew on the head of the boy. Even though everyone that has a halo in these pictures is visible to us, we see who has the halo. Those that have the halo don't know they have it. If I were to say to Reverend Conklin, Nancy, I see your halo, she would say, I don't have a halo. And I'd say, yes, you do. I see your halo. Right there it is. There's your halo. And she goes, I don't see a halo. The person who has the halo is the only one who doesn't know they have one. We are the ones who see the halos in others. They don't see it themselves. But what we need to be reminded of are the words of the Apostle Paul. We Christians do reflect the glory of the Lord, even though we may not see it ourselves. Because we may see the glory of the Lord reflected in others and not in ourselves, we can sometimes get down on ourselves. Sometimes it is difficult being a Christian. It can be discouraging at times. We try to show kindness to someone and they don't appreciate it. We try to witness to someone and tell them how much our faith means to us, or talk about how much we love our church, and they turn a deaf ear to us. We try to show concern for someone and we get a look of skepticism from that person. Sometimes we get downright discouraged. And we can say to ourselves, when I am this discouraged and feel so badly about myself, how can I possibly reflect the glory of the Lord? I remind you again of Moses. Moses went to the top of Mount Sinai twice. He got the 10 Commandments twice. He was furious, angry, outraged at the Israelites for what they had done by making a golden calf. He was discouraged, he was frustrated, he was angry, yet he still radiated the glory of God. So when we get discouraged and frustrated and down, I assure you, we still reflect the glory of the Lord. That is why, my friends, it is important for us as Christians to tell our fellow brothers and sisters, when we see the glory of God radiate in them, they need to hear it from us, because sometimes we just can't believe that we really do reflect the glory of the Lord. We need to say, I see your halo today. You look bright. You are glowing. You radiate the love of God, because that is something we need to hear, and that is something the world needs to see, my friends. They need to see Christians radiating the love of the Lord through our actions. These are difficult days. And this is the time has arrived for us to reflect the glory of the Lord in the world in which we live now by our actions. We have to take seriously the words of Jesus. Love your neighbor as yourself. We need to extend kindness to the stranger and listen for the pain that people have experienced for years. We need to see people who have up till now been invisible. We need to show others that they matter to us. Just a few days ago, I read a story written by an African-American man who describes himself as being a large man. He says he's 6'4" and he has an athletic build. He was at a home improvement store. He was at the exit of the store trying to make sure that he had remembered to get everything he went to the store to get. And as he was standing there trying to think about what he had purchased, he said a little white woman who appeared to be in her 80s came up to him. They were both wearing masks. They were social distancing. She went up to him and she said, "Sir, I want to apologize to you for what we have done to you for too many years. I am so sorry." The man said that he was so touched by her words and her act of kindness that he said to her through his mask, "I know we're not supposed to do this, but would it be okay with you if I hugged you?" She nodded yes. He said he wrapped his arms around the little 80-year-old white woman and that she wept in his arms. And she kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He wrote that he cannot remember a time when an act of kindness had touched him so deeply. But I would like to add that this man showed extraordinary graciousness to this woman. He could have looked at her and said, "You have no idea what suffering is." He could have said something hateful to her. He could have completely ignored her and walked out the door. But instead, he extended to her extraordinary grace for her kindness to him. What I like so much about this encounter is that it was face to face. Even though they were wearing masks, and initially they were social distancing, it was a face-to-face encounter, and they were both changed forever by that encounter. In the same way, Moses is changed forever by his encounter, his face-to-face encounter with the Lord. I acknowledge, brothers and sisters, that it is difficult these days to have face-to-face encounter with people because we are wearing masks and we are social distancing. But the time has come now for us to make changes. These were two strangers that met, and now their lives have been changed forever. We need not to be afraid of strangers and work toward change in our society. And it may be done in a number of different ways. There are some people who are going to protests, peaceful protests, and wearing masks. There are others who are giving to political candidates or causes that reflect their moral values. There are people who are putting signs in their front yard. There are all kinds of ways that we can respond to this crisis in our country at this time, but I say to all of you and to me, now is the time to listen to the pain and suffering of those who for too long have been overlooked, marginalized, and oppressed. Now is the time for us to be inclusive and affirming. As Christians, we affirm that Jesus Christ died for all people. On this day, let us recommit ourselves to taking the message of Jesus' love to the world, to everyone, regardless of their social class, their country of origin, their sexual orientation, or the color of their skin. Our message is this: God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. My friends, at the end of this sermon, you will hear a song. It's not a hymn. It is a popular song written by rock star Beyonce. And some of you may think already, Beyonce is not for me. I ask you to reconsider and listen to her song at the end of this worship service. I see her song through Christian eyes, and to me, it is full of meaning. My prayer is that it will be as meaningful to you as it is to me as you see the words of her song entitled Halo. Amen.